Hello, movie nerds, and welcome back to Cinematic Sarcastic, podcast that talks all things movies and television. I'm Natalie, and I'm your host. On today's episode, we are going to be talking about a new comedy drama series called Lucky Hank. This show stars Bob Odenkirk, Oscar Nunez, Diedrich Bader. It's got a great ensemble of people in this casting. Now, when I saw Oscar Nunez come on to this show, I immediately knew it was going to be a good time. I really love him from The Proposal, where he's like that stripper character. Brilliant, one of my favorites, and so I was very excited. I don't Google television series and stuff before I watch them. I try to go into it as unbiased as possible without like looking at who's in the show or really what the show is even going to be about. So I didn't really know that much about Lucky Hank. This is going to sound really bad and very unpopular opinion, but I sort of was expecting to not like this because everything that I've seen Bob Odenkirk in recently, like Breaking Bad and then Better Call Saul, that series he's very, popular for. It's not that I didn't like him as an actor. I felt like the role of Saul was fine, but I wasn't as into Breaking Bad as I feel like the majority of the world was. And so I never really watched that much of Better Call Saul. Like I just wasn't that interested. And I never, even though I know he used to do stand-up back in the day, I never really looked at Bob Odenkirk as someone that would be doing comedy in the way that it's done in Lucky Hank. Like in Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad, the comedy is obviously there, but I feel like it's unintentional comedy. Like it's not meant to be a comedic show, but just some of the stuff that happens to him is obviously very humorous in nature just because it's so outlandish. But in Lucky Hank, it is intentional. Like he intentionally is funny and I absolutely adore it. I very much enjoy Lucky Hank. So the show is really centered around Bob Odenkirk and his character, William Devereaux, who is basically the chair at a college teaching English. And it's sort of in this small town. I can't remember off the top of my head what town he's actually in, like where this college is, but he strikes me just from the pilot episode as being someone who is in a very small sort of mediocre setting. He's not particularly happy there, but for whatever reason, and you don't quite know what that reason is in the first episode, for whatever reason he seems not to want to leave there. So it's almost like he kind of wants better for himself and he knows he should be bettering himself, but he's too scared to do it, or there's something that's holding him back. I think that he's trying to write a second book in this series, and his wife knows that that's about to make him like incredibly grumpy, and he's not happy at work, and he's telling some of his students, that they're shitty writers and they should essentially give up on themselves. And it works so well. The cast itself, I feel like, works so well. There's like these group of teachers, like college professors at this place where he works. And every single one of them, I feel like, just comes off as a college professor in a small town. Like they're very witty with each other and somewhat catty behind each other's backs, but then somehow come back to like this weirdly funny place. It's hard to explain. You have to watch it. I don't want to give too much away, but it's comedic. And this, to me, this series specifically, I feel like I'm a little bit biased for, because I'm kind of in this realm right now in my personal life. I started a writing mentorship, or I like joined a writer's mentorship to try and write my second book. So literally when I heard, Bob Odenkirk in this show talk about like, oh, I think I'm going to go write a second book, I died. And not even because it was particularly a funny moment in the show, but I was just like, oh my gosh, it's like the universe has given me a television show to watch while I'm going through this like new era of my own like writer's journey. And it just cracked me up so much, a lot of the jokes that he was making and the way that he like critiques some of his students' writing, I found incredibly humorous. And I don't know if that's because I'm looking at it from like a writer's brain and thinking about how traumatizing it would be to be critiqued in the way that he does it, or if it's like a universal. I feel like this show would be universally funny. I am hoping that it's not only funny for me because I'm a weirdo like book nerd. like I'm hoping that's not what it is. But I would definitely, if I just have to give it a yes or no, I would say definitely watch Lucky Hank. I think that Bob Odenkirk really settles into his own and like a natural ability of, you know, comedic timing and just being funny. I love getting to see him in a role that is more like this, where it's not, you know, he's trying to scam people or, you know, he's helping somebody who's making meth. Like, I just feel like seeing him as that sort of sleazy character, or, you know, someone that isn't necessarily appealing, that to see him in Lucky Hank is kind of cool. You know, it's totally different than what I'm used to looking at him as. And to be completely honest, I almost didn't recognize him at first when he like came onto the screen. It's like I knew who he was, but he somehow just looked different. And I don't know if it's just, you know, a different role. Obviously, you know, his hair I think is mostly gray in this television series. And I don't know if that's just his natural hair color, if they've intentionally dyed it gray for this, because I don't recall him being, you know, that much of a silver fox in some other stuff. But I'm very much enjoying Lucky Hank. It's only one pilot episode that's out now. I will absolutely be tuning in to watch the rest of them. And I would definitely give it a go if you guys are looking for a new like comedy series to watch. So let me know what you guys think of Lucky Hank if you happen to watch it. Subscribe if you want to join the movie nerd family. You can find me on Instagram at Cinematic Sarcastic Podcast, and I hope to see you in the next episode.